Explained by the Billy Meier contacts. Mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more. Compiled by David Chance, revised October 18, 2023.
Grigori Rasputin murder. Contact Report 487.
Rasputin did not lead a dissolute life, as is attributed to him. This story is malicious slander. However, it is true that his murder could barely have been surpassed in terms of its brutality when, in 1916, he was murdered with a .455 Webley pistol by a British agent by the name of Oswald Rayner. Although he was married and had a family, Rasputin was an itinerant monk, that is to say, an itinerant preacher who, through suggestive influence, carried out miraculous healings which were truly self-healings of the sick. Thereby he also reached the court of the Tsars, where he had much influence as a friend to the Tsar's family, especially because, through a miracle healing, he had saved the Tsar's son from death. That did not please many sectors of the Russian nobility, for which reason they became Rasputin's sworn enemies, sought to take his life, and named him Holy Devil. On the 17th of December 1916, he was then actually also kidnapped and murdered, whereby his murderer was, however, the aforementioned British agent who acted in the commission of the nobles in England. The reason for the murder was Rasputin's political objectives, which endangered the victory of Great Britain in the First World War, which raged at that time. But the murder of Rasputin still had other reasons, because, through the nefarious deed, the already long-planned Russian Revolution could also gain ground and be carried out, and the Tsar's family could be captured and murdered. Rasputin was the most important advisor to the court of the Russian Tsar's family. As already explained, he was kidnapped on the 17th of December 1916, whereby the main role was played by a conspirator by the name of Felix Yusupov, who had a friendly relationship with the British agent Oswald Rayner. Rasputin was dragged into a palace cellar in St. Petersburg, where he was tortured and also poisoned, whereby he was, however, able to counteract the poison, and therefore it did not have the desired effect, and he survived the poison attack and was able to flee. But he did not get far because a revolver was taken, and he was shot 2 times in the back from behind, which he, however, also survived. So the murderer took his weapon again and shot Rasputin in the forehead. Rasputin then died immediately. Therefore, he was first seriously injured by the British agent Oswald Rayner, with several shots which, however, Rasputin survived because he simply did not want to die. Only the shot in the forehead really killed him. Consequently, therefore, in this way, a professional execution ultimately occurred. After that, the giant of a man was bound up by the noble conspirators and dragged to the icy Neva River, where they threw him in the icy water. Naturally, the assassins were quickly found, yet the Tsar stopped the police investigation. The conspirators asserted that they had murdered Rasputin because he had exercised too great an influence on the family of the Tsar. These statements from the assassins were, however, not the actual reason why the Tsar did not intervene in the matter of the murder and its investigation. Rather, it was the fact that it was not a Russian, but a foreigner, the British agent Oswald Rayner to be exact, who was Rasputin's real murderer. The true reason for the murder was that Rasputin, peace-loving as he was active in pressing for an armistice, in order to thereby end the state of war between Russia and Germany, and in order, additionally, to also avoid a defeat. And his chances of implementing his desire were, in this regard, very good, because the Tsar, due to Rasputin's enormous influence on the Tsar's family, was willing to bend to Rasputin's wishes and to declare an armistice. But the British, who saw their plans and the victory in the First World War endangered by Rasputin's peaceful political aims, did not like that. Consequently, they introduced into the plan, as murderer, an agent who worked hand in hand with the conspirators, and whose murder plan fitted theirs exactly, because the nobility were also not keen on an armistice. Had this come about then, the entire history of the world would have changed, because, namely, an end to the war with Russia would have enabled Germany to transfer an army of 350,000 soldiers to the Western Front. It would have thereby been possible for the German Kaiser to position his armies against the armies of France, Great Britain, and the USA, and to overcome them and to be victorious. So, Rasputin's murderer, with his license to kill, committed a cold-blooded murder in the commission of the British Crown, so that, in the First World War, the Allies could obtain victory over the German Empire.
Contact Report 704.
5. Grigori Yefimovich Rasputin was a herbalist, and in this form a healer, but also an itinerant preacher, who was wrongly called an itinerant preacher, which has survived to the present day. As a herbalist who was disregarded by the medical profession and the population of the time, Rasputin was summoned to the Tsar's court in the hope of stopping the bleeding of the Tsar's son and Tsarevich Alexei, who was suffering from hemophilia by means of herbal mixtures, which, however, was falsely and misleadingly described by so-called contemporary witnesses as prayers, because in his treatment he taught the young Tsarevich Alexei the form of self-mastery and self-influence, through the self-prayer form of self-address. 1. Through the power of my consciousness, I alone, with my mind and with my reason, exercise omnipotence over my knowledge, truth, ability, love, and truthfulness. 2. My might alone spreads within me, but no other, if I am always aware of my own thoughts and feelings and unfold and use my knowledge, my wisdom, and my ability, and thus lead everything to true love, freedom, harmony, and peace within me. 3. The power of my consciousness is a determination for me, so I use it for my own good, for my thoughts and feelings and psyche as well as for my body. 4. Daily, I unfold and use my power of consciousness, so that it constantly works in me and lets me meet my ignorance, whereby I nourish my knowledge and wisdom with love, compassion, as well as with understanding and reason. 5. Through the power of my consciousness, I recognize my own mistakes and correct them, and avoid committing new ones, so that none can hinder me in my development and progress. 6. The power of my consciousness lets me recognize false teachings, wrong ways of thinking, and all dangers of faith addiction, as well as of harmful material and worldly things, and avoid them. 7. Through my power of consciousness, I am powerful even of my mind and reason, and through the omnipotence of my consciousness, I am always aware of my power, ability, peace, and knowledge, as well as my wisdom, love, and harmony, and I control everything. It was a fact that the successful work of Rasputin, whose task it was to instruct the people through his work as a herbalist, healer, and herald, with the young Tsarevich Alexei, was also confirmed by contemporary witnesses, as also confirmed by doctors and critics, among others, that Rasputin had an extraordinarily great influence on the Tsarevich at that time, and that he also had an inexplicable positive effect on his life-threatening hemorrhages,